Hello and welcome to this edition of FYI Weekly, your official source for City of Greensboro news and information. The City of Greensboro is investing in the remodeling of the former Regency Inn and Suites Motel on North O'Henry Boulevard to provide emergency shelter for the homeless this winter. The city granted $3 million in loan financing to assist Partnership Homes Incorporated with the purchase and remodeling of the motel. This project fully aligns with the city's mission of pursuing supportive housing strategies under the Housing GSO 10-year Affordable Housing Plan. Neighborhood Development Director Michelle Kennedy said supportive housing allows the city to take more comprehensive care of our chronically homeless and disabled residents and be better stewards of our taxpayers' dollars. Those who want to help with the transformation of the motel should contact Partnership Homes at 336-707-5289. Greensboro is temporarily switching its drinking water's standard chloramines disinfectant to free chlorination. The process will begin in western Greensboro and then expand citywide in early December. The switchover will be in effect until mid-April. This water quality preventative maintenance program is used to maintain and optimize the water quality in the city's drinking water distribution system. The first area affected is near Piedmont Triad International Airport, near Regional Road and Swing Road, extending west to the county line at Colfax. During this maintenance, some users may notice temporary taste or odor differences in their water. This is a normal part of the transition and does not adversely impact water quality. Both chlorinated and chloraminated water are safe for drinking, cooking, and other general uses. Specialized industries that use water in their production process should take precautions. These customers will be contacted directly. For more information, visit the city's website or call the Environmental Protection Agency Safe Drinking Water Hotline at 1-800-426-4791. Due to a data error, more than 30,000 Greensboro households will receive an incorrect 2022 recycling calendar in the mail. The city apologizes for any confusion this might cause. All affected households have been identified. There is no need to call the city to report you received the wrong calendar. The city will send each impacted household a follow-up mailer identifying the error and providing the correct calendar. If you need to know which recycling day or week your house falls under, access the GSO Collects tool on the city's website. Search by entering your address. You can also type in your address to learn when your trash, recycling, and bulk items will be picked up. Consider downloading and printing the 2022 recycling calendar. And finally, use the GSO Collects app on your smartphone to get regular collection service reminders. Simply download the app. If you already use the GSO Collects app, expect to still be notified if you're affected by the mailing error. The city developed a partnership with Cone Health to share a series of brief and informative videos designed to inspire you to make better choices when it comes to healthy living. Following these tips is an easy way for each of us to improve our quality of life. Let's take a moment to check out today's news for your health.
Coronavirus is in the community and we have to adjust to its presence, but it doesn't mean you can't live your lives. We just want you to be safe. A lot of people are beginning to go back out and do things, so let's talk about some ways to stay safe. When you're out in public, it's important that you always bring your mask. A helpful tip is to just go ahead and mark the outside of your mask with a marker. That way you can keep track of which side is outside and which side is inside. It's very important that you wear your mask the proper way. You take the loop of the mask, go ahead and put that behind your ear, making sure it's secure, and then tuck it under your chin and cover your nose. When you remove your mask, you do the same thing. You do the reverse. You're going to go ahead and take the loop off your ear, and then you're going to pull your mask down. Don't grab the front of the mask. Just go ahead and pull it off of your face, and then wash your hands. If you wear a cloth mask, wash it and dry it with high heat in the dryer. Don't just keep wearing the same mask over and over. Cough into your sleeve. Still practice good hand hygiene. Wash your hands every time you touch your mask. It's not 100% of a seal, but it decreases the risk of cross-contamination if someone talks or sneezes. and also prevents you from getting someone else sick. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. The proper technique is to make sure that you wash from the fingertips all the way to your wrist, allowing your hands to get in full contact with the soap, lathering completely and rinsing. Items like pens, doorknobs, keyboards, remote controls, we call those high contact surfaces. Bring your own pen, save yourself some time with having to decontaminate everything. Also clean off your steering wheel. Many of us eat in the car and we're rushing, so we eat our meal, touch the steering wheel, we touch our cell phones, and we can also contaminate ourselves that way. So wash your hands often and make sure that you are using your hand sanitizer when you're out and about. If you choose to wear gloves, they're single-use items, so you want to discard your gloves, not touching multiple surfaces because you'll contaminate everything. When out in public or with groups larger than 5 or 10 people, you always want to maintain social distancing. That means that you maintain about 6 feet between you and the next person when possible. It's also important to avoid crowded spaces when you can. Many places are beginning to limit how many people they let into stores, but you could do that on your own by just scanning the room and then waiting until the crowd passes. If you have symptoms of coronavirus, stay home. Call one of the many clinics at Cone Health and you can do a virtual visit, and we'll talk with you about testing. Coronavirus is in our community, so as we adjust to this new normal, we want you to continue to live your lives. Just to remember to keep safe, keeping each other protected by following these tips.
Drivers of oversized vehicles will receive a penalty for parking in the wrong place, and find out what's happening on the economic development front. We'll have those stories and more news coming up after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to FYI Weekly. The Greensboro City Council recently amended its ordinance to increase the penalties for oversized vehicles parked on city streets. Under the new rules, the first offense will result in a warning. The second offense within 12 months will result in a $75 ticket. Subsequent offenses within 12 months of the first offense will result in the vehicle being towed. The fines were increased in response to complaints from residents about transfer trucks parked overnight on neighborhood streets, in some cases causing site obstructions. Under city parking ordinances, oversized vehicles are more than 80 inches wide or 30 feet in length or have a trailer. Oversized vehicles may only be parked on public streets while they are being loaded or unloaded, while they are providing emergency services, or for temporary use during active construction. To report an oversized vehicle parked on a city street, call the contact center at 336-373-2489. Greensboro's Economic Development Office has released its 2020-2021 Year in Review report. The electronic document highlights economic development activity visible across Greensboro. The biggest challenge was determining how to address a business climate characterized by the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic. Economic Development Manager Marshall Yandel said the city and its partners adopted programs and policies to align with the changing needs of industry, businesses, and the Greensboro community during this time. This approach resulted in the stabilization of many aspects of business activity and development. The Economic Development Office is part of the city's planning department. The Greensboro City Council Chamber is now officially named the Katie Dorsett Council Chamber. The renaming of the chamber received unanimous support proposed by Council Member Dr. Goldie Wales at the July 13, 2021 meeting. Katie Dorsett passed away on July 6, 2020. She was the first African-American woman elected to the Greensboro City Council, serving 2 terms from 1983 through 1986. She advocated for a review of the city boards and commissions memberships and was instrumental in passing a city ordinance for the Minority and Women's Business Enterprise Program. Dorsett also served as a Guilford County Commissioner from 1990 to 1992 and was appointed Secretary of the Department of Administration by former North Carolina Governor Jim Hunt. Dorsett was the first African-American woman to hold a North Carolina cabinet post and appointed to lead a North Carolina state agency. She served 4 terms in the North Carolina Senate from 2003 to 2011. One local foundation is spearheading a campaign to cultivate capital for the purpose of supporting minority-owned businesses. Coming up after the break, we'll introduce you to the concept of the Big Equity Fund. Stay with us. Welcome back to FYI Weekly. Cultivating generational wealth will be a lot easier for minority communities thanks to the creation of a new funding source. Joining me now to tell us about the Big Equity Fund is Ethan Lindsay. He is Vice President of Grants and Community Impact with the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro. Hello, Ethan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, tell me, what is the Big Equity Fund? How did it get started? What is the vision?
So the Big Equity Fund, imagine it's coming together, a collective group of people, donors, in this case, black people from Greensboro, and they've decided we had a vision that's to become a philanthropic powerhouse that will transform the education, health, and well-being of the black community. What's unique about the Big Equity Fund is that it's not a nonprofit, but it's actually what we call a strategic endowment at the Community Foundation. Similar to a Women to Women, Big Equity Fund follows that, where you have a group of donors who I like to say have a shared affinity, and in this case, the shared affinity is that they care about black community. And they've come together, pooled their money, and created an endowed fund at the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro.
Oh, that sounds exciting, and certainly we want to always create new ways of revenue streaming into investing in the black community. So tell me, how does that make the Big Equity Fund a game changer for African Americans?
Well, the Big Equity Fund is a game changer for African Americans I'd like to think about it in a couple levels. For African Americans as individuals, oftentimes when we use the word philanthropy or work to a philanthropist, if we're honest, the image of who we consider to be a philanthropist is someone who's probably wealthy, old, and probably white. But with the Big Equity Fund, what we're really doing is really changing the narrative of who's a philanthropist. And actually, African Americans, we have a rich philanthropic history. This is an opportunity for us to address those systemic issues. But what I say, we're not going to be doing charity or direct relief, but really thinking big and looking at these type of opportunities to build community by design.
Hence the name Big Equity Fund. I love how you're going to balance between healthcare, education, business, all the components that any community needs to thrive and do well. And could you talk about the significance of your allies and who is aligning with this concept and contributing to the fund?
Sure. And one thing I would be remiss that those focus areas are the initial areas, but also it ties into work with allies. Big Equity Fund, we need allies. And really, ultimately, this is about equity and justice. And those values resonate with anyone. So anyone that those values resonate with you, we consider you an ally.
Okay, well, I'm so glad to see that there's such a broad spectrum of allies. Now, how will the Big Equity Fund work with community organizations?
So, again, as I said earlier, Big Equity Fund, oftentimes people, when they think about the Community Foundation, they look at it from, I'm going to be seeking grants. Big Equity Fund will be a grant maker, and what we will do is support nonprofits that are working on the issues that the Big Equity Fund Steering Committee has said these are our priorities. But we also want to look at and bringing together and collaborating with other black-led organizations, fraternities and sororities, but really come together and work with faith community and any other organizations to really come together and convene.
So the concept of the Big Equity Fund didn't just happen overnight, but why are we just now really hearing about this?
First of all, this is a complicated process. To be transparent and honest, we're dealing with the intersection of philanthropy and race, but we're also dealing with trust. The Community Foundation, we've been honest about that. We have not had the diversity of our donors, and then when I say donors, those are people who are contributing to the Community Foundation or opening their own funds. We have not had that great track record. This has been a process to start, one, educating folks about it, or the 3 E's that I like to refer to as expose, educate, and engage. Part of that exposure is exposing people to the community foundation and the tools of philanthropy. It's also been educating the foundation as well, but others about this notion of philanthropy and what can philanthropy do. Philanthropy has a power to really be a problem solver for communities. And then the engagement process is continuing to engage people where they are, however we can, and it just takes a process that we've started in 2015, and ultimately it's just been about building trust.
Okay, so once you get the big equity fund wheels churning, can you paint the picture and tell us what's the vision in terms of what investment in the Black community will look like?
So I like to paint the picture when I'd say, imagine if this would have been started 30 years ago. And this is the power of an endowment or a permanent community asset, that what this is. This is a gift to the future generations of Greensboro's community, but especially the future generations of Black Greensboro.
Okay, well, I'm sure someone listening wants to be part of the Big Equity Fund. How do they do that?
Well, simple way, you can text Big Equity to 243725 from a mobile device. You can also go to bigequityfund.org and you can give online and learn more about the Big Equity Fund. Or you can simply call the Community Foundation or contact me. Simply look us up at cfgg.org. I can be reached by email, alindsay, ALINDSAY, at cfgg.org. And I can be reached at 336-790-6339.
Okay, well, thank you, Ethan. Congratulations on the Big Equity Fund. I love the concept of it. And do come back and give us updates as you start making those investments in the Black community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay tuned for some useful information about Greensboro as we tell you something about the city. That's coming up after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to FYI Weekly. One way to stay informed about decisions that impact you and our city is by attending or tuning in to City Council meetings at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of the month. The fourth Tuesday is reserved for a meeting as needed. The City Council has resumed meeting in the Katie Dorsett Council Chamber on Level 2 of the Melvin Municipal Office Building located at 300 West Washington Street. The public is allowed in person, but only on a limited capacity. Those who choose not to be in the building can participate virtually. The Greensboro City Council meetings are broadcast right here on GTN. The meetings are also streamed live on the city's website and on Roku. To review the council meeting schedule and agendas, please visit the city's website. Here's an opportunity to learn a little something about the city. The International Civil Rights Center and Museum will host its annual fundraising gala on Saturday, February 5th at the Curry Convention Center. The museum will mark the 62nd anniversary of America's most recognized lunch counter sit-in protest against segregated eating establishments in the South. This also marks the 12th anniversary of the museum's existence. The doors will open at 6 p.m. and the program will begin at 6:30 p.m. For a reduced rate, the program will also stream live for those who are not able to attend in person. The gala celebrates national and local activists who have made significant contributions to advancing civil and human rights while helping communities bridge the generations of social movements. This year's notable honorees include civil rights activist and professor Reverend James Lawson, Vice President Kamala Harris, civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, political commentator and attorney Bakari Sellers, Rabbi Fred Gutman, and a lunch counter sit-in participant. Ticket information is available on the Civil Rights Museum website. Coming up after the break, we'll showcase our department spotlight, but first, hear from our neighbors who boomeranged back to Greensboro.
My name's Ryan Deal. I work for the City of Greensboro, leading the Office of Arts and Culture, Creative Greensboro. So we chose a house in New Irving Park for a few reasons. The lot sizes are really great. We have several dogs, 3 to be exact, and so it was important to us that we had a nice big backyard. This one happened to be fenced in. Almost anywhere that you select in Greensboro, we found we could be most anywhere within 10 to 15 minutes. And so the convenience factor was there for us, but the size home and the size lot, and the neighborhood is super walkable. We love getting out and walking around from neighborhood to neighborhood in the early evenings especially.
My name's Alejandra Thompson, and I work at Thompson Traders. So I moved back from New York City, and I didn't intentionally move back at first. I moved back during the pandemic in March of 2020. And then once I got here and I saw how great life was, I decided to stay. I love so many things about New Irving Park, my new neighborhood. The best one is that I have family nearby. Both of my brothers and their wives and their children live within 5 minutes walking. But I also love how many young families and young children there are in general. What I also love about Greensboro is it's kind of this balance between a big city and a small town. You have accessibility to everything like airports and restaurants and art and shopping, but it still feels small. There's not a lot of traffic, it's not crowded, so you get this beautiful, balanced life.
So Alejandra, I came back to Greensboro to lead this Office for Arts and Culture for Greensboro. What's your favorite part about arts and culture or the creative community in Greensboro?
I grew up studying ballet at the Greensboro Ballet, so it goes way, way back for me. So I think we have incredible institutions here for art. I think there's a lot of experimentation in Greensboro that people don't know about, and I'm excited to be here and get to discover it.
A thing I love about Greensboro is like all of the things that you would expect to find in a big city. My experience is that you can find them in Greensboro. So there's a great symphony, there's great theater, there's great dance. One of my favorite things in my work has been connecting with and exploring all the amazing artists, like the creative individuals that make this such a dynamic place.
Welcome back. The City of Greensboro has more than 20 departments and several divisions committed to serving you, our residents and visitors. Let's go behind the scenes in our department spotlight. The Greensboro Planning Department has released its latest quarterly GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan Report. The report is available online and offers an overview on implementation and progress made across the city toward reaching goals for growth. A few examples include the North Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association awarding the GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan with the Marvin Collins Award. This recognizes plans that advance the science and art of planning. The city's budget, water resources, and transportation departments have completed projects that support the goals and visions of the plan. You can stay up to date on GSO 2040 implementation by signing up to receive an email when a new report is available. Visit the e-Notify page of the city's website, select GSO 2040 in the news section, and enter your contact information. Straight ahead on the other side of the break is this week's Way to Go GSO shout out. Stay with us. As we draw to a close, we always want to end on a positive note with our Way to Go GSO shout out. This week's shout out goes to a Greensboro City Council member. Governor Roy Cooper appointed Councilmember Nancy Hoffman to the North Carolina Local Government Commission. The 9-member commission is responsible for addressing issues in local government finance. The commission was created in 1931 to address finance issues arising during the Great Depression. The appointment expires in June 2025. Way to go, Councilmember Nancy Hoffman. That concludes this edition of FYI Weekly, but you can easily stay connected to the latest city news by linking to us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Alexa users can subscribe to our 5-minute flash briefings, which airs on 90.1 FM and 100.7 FM. Be sure to download our weekly podcast, Talk City Greensboro, and now GTN is streaming on Roku. For all of us here at the City of Greensboro, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.